Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the Government of India for inviting me to give the keynote on a topic which I'm very passionate about. As a venture investor at Chiratae, I've been investing in new tech, digital, since '98. And one aspect which stands out about the digital entrepreneur and the Indian new economy entrepreneur is that of massive scale, which I used to think was yet to come. And I'll elaborate this a little bit later. Various departments of the Government of India, regulatory bodies, fund of funds, officers, each have taken lead in being change agents. And I saw this yesterday and I was absolutely amazed. I was talking to one of my friends saying that this is distributed product development. And he mentioned that used to be called open source earlier as such. And I said, no, this is distributed because it's very different from open source. My congratulations to the entire Government of India team, officers, each one of the people who I've met in the last 2 days for something which each one of us as CEOs hope for in our own organizations. An excellent job done. Digital India is about a new technology-based economy. Government initiatives are a catalyst to this new technology, like no other anywhere in the world. UPI and ONDC are so unique that they have the potential to disrupt the global economy. And I heard yesterday that UPI is going to 34 countries, which is absolutely for me a dream come true. Digital India has 4 components which I want to speak about today. IT services, startup ecosystem, the India Stack and all the government initiatives which are enabling solutions to reach out to 1 billion plus people in the country, which no other private industry can do. And then electronics and defense. India Stack is now the enabler. It enables startups to go easily, whether they're in fintech or in health tech or e-commerce with ONDC, to be supported and not worry about keyword search and competition. During COVID, we saw CoWIN scale massively to enable over 1 billion people to have vaccinations. That is unheard of. That's massive scale on the technology app itself. UPI saw digital payments scale to a different level altogether. I must add, anecdotally, that we saw in our own portfolio, 70% of our technology companies invested in grow faster than pre-COVID levels. And that included almost 40% of our portfolio companies anecdotally going international. That was something which we did not expect. We also, as an investor, we also literally had to reinvent ourselves and say, you know what? The TAM, the targeted addressable market, is no longer a few 100 million people in the country. It is 1 billion people who need insurance. It's 1 billion people who need lending. It's 1 billion people who need efficient healthcare which they're unable to get today. It's 150 million farmers who depend on something out there for crop productivity, soil management, disease management of plants, and water management. How do you get it across? It's about 300 million plus students who were looking for education during the last 2 years. It's about 100 million plus SMEs who were looking for solutions on how to build their businesses during the last 2 years. And that increased, or that rather made our mindset, my personal vision of what can happen in the country suddenly shot up 10 times, saying this country now provides, not on theory, but having done it for the last 2 years, consumers actually and businesses scaled in a very, very trying situation. And all that would not have happened if the inherent India Stack, for instance, was not there. However, what is perhaps not known in the 4 elements is what is the scale right now. We know that some of the companies are going international and have achieved dominance in the market space. We have some of those companies here today. We have Zetwork, we have Mama Earth, we have Map My India. Many of these companies are achieving dominance and reaching out to every nook and corner of the country. First Cry is now the largest baby care company in the world. Lenskart, now with the new acquisition in Japan, is the second largest company in the world. So the audaciousness of the thinking of becoming not only dominant in the country and scale in the country which India provides has transformed itself to these companies and entrepreneurs thinking that, look, let's be leaders in the world. And I think that's happening right now. And I'll give you proof points. If you look at the revenue, now a lot has been spoken about valuations. I am excited about valuations, but they keep going up and down. And as many of our colleagues would know here. But valuations is an outcome. What is manageable is revenue and financial performance. We did some research, and we have data till 2021 March. The revenue of all technology startups in that year was $20 billion. This grew from $4.5 billion in 2007. That's a 34% CAGR. But what happened subsequently was very interesting, that growth patterns of revenue started growing at 50% per annum. Why did this happen? It happened because there's an inherent infrastructure which is working at scale. It also happened because in technology, larger companies tend to grow, in many cases, faster. It's faster. In the old world, we used to say, hey, let's scale down the 30% growth to 15%. But many larger companies in our own portfolio we've seen are growing at the same pace or maybe a tad faster, either due to organic reasons or due to M&A. Mind you, we also did something interesting and say, hey, how will this look up in the next 5 years? In the next 5 years, we expect this and new companies, which are coming in the startup ecosystem in technology, to reach a revenue scale of anywhere between 150 to $200 billion. This is all Indian startup. This does not include Amazons of the world or Flipkarts who are owned by outsiders right now. And this does not include companies which are structured outside the country. This is all based in India. Mind you, this startup ecosystem humongous scale of close to $200 billion in the next 5 to 6 years does not include software services. Software services, which was last year $237 billion, is likely to scale to $350 billion in a 5 to 6 year time frame, which is also the second part of the Digital India. The electronics component, as Minister said yesterday, is looking at $75 billion, and that is targeted at $350 billion. So we are talking, and I also believe that UPI is now going international, and between yesterday and today we did some quick math. It can touch in the next 5 to 7 years a 200 billion revenue, because if it goes to just 10 large economies in the world, every pie of that transaction, small pie, comes to UPI. We're talking about a $200 billion company, which is valued at a humongous level. So, what is digital economy without defense right now? We are looking at a 1 trillion revenue in 2027 to 28 timeframes. And out of that, 2 sectors are performing with solid engines. Electronics hopefully will perform. I think it will, with all the government incentives and backing overall. A trillion revenue is not something to be scoffed at, whatever the valuation. New tech economy or digital economy is about new business models, new revenue models, new products, new technology, new go-to-markets, and also discovering new markets. And yesterday, 5 years ago, this used to be, for investors like us, possibly in an or situation. Today, we are seeing entrepreneurial organizations chugging along rapidly, where a bulk of these are now met. That means all these criteria are in an and situation, innovation, agility on all these criteria. And that's the fueling which is happening in the country. The question to me asked many times is which sectors are going to now perform? And my answer is always, India is not about one sector at a time. There'll be phases when some sectors will go, some sectors will not come up. That's fine. It's about every tech. Every sector is growing rapidly. We are looking at now companies, not just unicorns, we are looking at companies achieving 1 billion revenue each. I have seen those companies targeting and entrepreneurs targeting. It's our estimate that in the next 5 years, there'll be at least 25 companies who've reached 1 billion revenues each. This is from domestic market and international market. Capital plays an important part. In the last 7 years, India has invested $150 billion worth of capital. We expect, in spite of the slowdowns, somewhere between 7 to 10% increase in capital investments from venture investors, angels, and private equity to come into India. With some policy changes, this could touch 400 billion plus. That's humongous. These companies are not just serving a financial purpose. These companies are serving something which is very valuable to society and business. We are looking at agriculture, where problems are being solved by technology. In our own portfolio, we have reached out to, now our companies are serving 3.5 million farmers in the country overall. And that applies to numbers in healthcare, numbers in greenhouse gas emissions. So, in fact, we took out an impact report, the third one just recently, enabling that these are very, very important factors. Any company who becomes critical to society and business as they perform their financial functions very nicely is likely to also stay longer, 25 years, 50 years, and perform well. I end this talk with a quote from Lenin, perhaps the wrong guy to quote right now. He mentioned after the war that there are times when decades go by in days, and there are days when decades go by. India is today at a stage when there are days when decades are now being traversed, and that's due to digital transformation of the country, the startup ecosystem, what we see today, and the massive scale. Thank you so much.